The United States Federal Emergency Management Agency publishes an official guide on what to do when the grid goes down, because it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. This guide tells you to create a communications plan, build a supply kit, and stay informed. To stay informed, they direct you to ready.gov. The problem is that ready.gov requires an internet connection to access. That is not an oversight. That is the infrastructure you're living inside. All 15 links mentioned in this video are in the description below. Every one of them is free. Every one of them opens in a browser right now. Pause here, open the description, and bookmark that page before you watch another second of this video. The entire point is that you download these before you need them, not after. In 2003, 50 million people across 8 U.S. states and 2 Canadian provinces lost power for 4 days. No internet, no cell service, no GPS map layer on most phones. In 2005, after Katrina, the Louisiana population discovered that every emergency resource they had been directed to was centralized, server-dependent, and offline. In 2021, the Texas winter storm knocked out power to 4.12 million homes for up to 3 weeks. The state's emergency information portal went dark within hours. Every major grid down event in the last 20 years has had the same outcome. The people who had information stored offline survived better than the people who didn't. Not because they were preppers or survivalists, because they had downloaded a file at some point before everything went dark. 15 files, every single one of them free. Everyone published by a government agency, a university, or an open source foundation. And not one of them appears on any official emergency preparedness list, because every official emergency preparedness list assumes you have internet access to read it. Download them tonight. Here is exactly what they are and where to find them. File 1. Wikipedia offline via Kiwix. Kiwix is a free open source application that lets you download a complete offline copy of Wikipedia. Articles, images, references, internal links, everything, and access it without any internet connection at all. The full English Wikipedia with images is approximately 22 gigabytes. On a $60 flash drive, you have the largest general reference database in human history available offline in your hand permanently. The Wikimedia Foundation publishes and updates these download files for free at kiwix.org. No subscription, no account, no expiration date. Kiwix also hosts offline versions of Khan Academy, Project Gutenberg, and medical reference databases, all accessible from the same interface. One application, one drive, everything. This is your starting point. Every other file on this list builds on top of it. File 2, the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning. The National Center for Home Food Preservation at the University of Georgia publishes and updates this document in direct partnership with the United States Department of Agriculture. It is free. It is peer-reviewed. It covers pressure canning, water bath canning, food safety at every temperature, botulism prevention, and safe storage timelines for every category of food. FEMA recommends 72 hours of emergency food storage. FEMA's own internal continuity planning documents acknowledge that major regional grid down events require 4 to 6 weeks of self-sufficiency. 72 hours is not a plan. This document is a plan. Download it free at nchfp.uga.edu. Write that address down before this video ends. File 3. Where there is no doctor. The Hesperian Health Guides Foundation has published this clinical reference manual since 1977. It is currently in active use by community health workers in 150 countries, specifically in regions with limited or no access to trained medical professionals. It covers diagnosis, treatment, medication dosing, wound care, childbirth, and disease management in plain language written for non-medical readers. Hesperian Health Guides distributes it free at hesperian.org in more than 80 languages. This is not a first aid booklet. It is a complete clinical reference written on the explicit assumption that a doctor is not coming. Emergency health programs in rural Guatemala, Nepal, and sub-Saharan Africa use this document. Download it tonight. File 4. United States Army Field Manual FM 305.70. This is the official U.S. Army Survival Manual. Water procurement, fire, shelter, navigation without instruments, signaling for rescue, plan identification, food procurement in the field. It is public domain. It costs nothing. It was written for soldiers operating in hostile territory with no external support and no timeline for extraction. That scenario, no external support, no timeline for rescue, is exactly what a regional grid down event looks like for the average civilian at 72 hours in. The manual is available through the Internet Archive at archive.org. Search the title directly. Download the PDF, approximately 675 pages covering every physical survival scenario the U.S. military has tested. Stay with me because the next file is the one most people think is already handled. It is not, because when your cell tower goes down, your phone's map goes blank. But the satellites are still running. File 5. Osmond offline maps. GPS signals come from satellites. They do not require the internet. What requires the internet is the map layer your phone renders on top of those satellite coordinates. Without internet, GPS tells you exactly where you are and shows you a blank screen. Osmon is a free open-source navigation application that lets you download complete offline map data for any region, state, province, or country in advance. OpenStreetMap data covers every populated area on Earth, updated continuously by a global volunteer network. Download your home region, your county, your province, your evacuation routes, and any destination you might need to reach in an emergency. Install Osmond before you need it. Download your maps while you still have bandwidth. File 6. The Emergency Response Guidebook, 2024 edition. The United States Department of Transportation publishes this guide specifically for first responders. Every fire department, hazmat team, and emergency vehicle in North America carries a physical copy. It contains identification codes for every hazardous material transported by road and rail in the United States. And for each one, it specifies exact evacuation distances, protective actions, and symptoms of exposure. If a freight train derails near your home, if a tanker truck overturns on your road, if first responders cannot reach you in time, this is the document they would have used to make decisions on your behalf. It is a free PDF at phmsa.gov. Search Emergency Response Guidebook. First responders receive a printed, government-issued copy. You can have the identical information tonight at zero cost. Not one of these 6 files has been hidden. Not one has been classified or restricted. Every file on this list was published with public funding, authored by people whose stated job was your survival. And not one of them is linked on the page your government directed you to for emergency preparedness, because that page requires internet to load. File 7. Where there is no dentist. Dental abscesses are the 3rd leading cause of emergency room visits in North America. A severe abscess left untreated becomes a systemic infection within 48 to 72 hours. Dentists' offices close when the grid goes down. Hesperian Health Guides publishes this manual alongside Where There Is No Doctor. Same free address, hesperian.org. It covers tooth extraction with available materials, abscess drainage, infection control, pain management without a pharmacy, and long-term oral health in austere conditions. It is written for community health workers with no dental training. This is the document you will wish you had downloaded when the abscess starts and your dentist's voicemail is full. File 8. The Special Forces Medical Handbook, ST 3191B. This manual was written for U.S. Army Special Forces medics expected to operate for 72 hours or longer without medical evacuation support. Diagnosis and treatment of traumatic injuries, severe infections, respiratory compromise, shock, burns, and field surgical procedures under austere conditions. It has been declassified. It is public domain. The operating assumption embedded in every page of this manual is identical to the assumption you need to make in a prolonged grid down scenario. Trained help is not arriving immediately, and you are the most medically capable person in your immediate group. What do you do? This document answers that question in detail. Available at archive.org, search the exact title. Free. No account required. File 9. Project Gutenberg, over 70,000 books. Free. Public domain. Agricultural manuals from the early 20th century when farming without electricity was not a preparedness concept. It was the only available option. Medical references from the pre-pharmaceutical era, engineering texts, chemistry, botany, navigation, water systems. The technology industry's shift to subscription models, streaming platforms, and cloud-first storage has systematically obscured something important. The most durable and practical knowledge in human history predates the internet entirely. Project Gutenberg has preserved it. You can download individual titles or complete collection archives at gutenberg.org. On a single external hard drive, you can carry 200 years of documented practical human knowledge. That drive costs $11 at any electronics retailer. File 10. The Complete Hesperian Health Guides Library. Beyond the doctor and dentist manuals, Hesperian Health Guides publishes a complete library of free clinical references, a health guide for women, a health handbook for children, a guide for people with disabilities, and a community guide to water and sanitation management, all free, all downloadable, all written for practitioners without formal medical training. These documents are the medical infrastructure that international NGOs deploy into active disaster zones and refugee settlements. They are not folk medicine or wellness content. They are peer-reviewed clinical resources written in accessible language by medical professionals. Download the complete library at Hesperian.org while you have the bandwidth to do it. File 11. The USDA Plants Database. The United States Department of Agriculture maintains a publicly available database of every native and naturalized plant species in North America, including documented edible and toxic properties, regional distribution maps, and botanical identification characteristics. The complete data set is available for free download at plants.usda.gov. Combined with UL Gibbons' Stalking the Wild Asparagus, available through your local library or for purchase as it remains under copyright, you have a foraging reference calibrated to the plant species present in your specific region. The margin between a plant that can kill you and one that can sustain you is accurate species identification. The USDA database is free if you download it before you need it. File 12. The FCC Amateur Radio Frequency Allocation Chart. Amateur radio operators function entirely independently of the internet, cell towers, and commercial power grid infrastructure. The Federal Communications Commission designates specific amateur radio frequencies as emergency communication channels. The American Radio Relay League, ARRL, publishes the complete band plan and emergency net frequencies as a free downloadable PDF at arrl.org. You do not need a ham radio license to receive on amateur frequencies. A battery-powered shortwave or weather radio with correct frequencies preloaded receives emergency traffic, official broadcasts, and amateur operator coordination during a complete communications blackout. The chart is free. The information broadcast on those frequencies during a grid-down event is irreplaceable. Download both before you need either. File 13. Practical Action Technical Briefs. Practical Action is an international development organization that publishes detailed, peer-reviewed technical guides on small-scale water purification, food preservation without refrigeration, solar installation, rainwater harvesting, and sanitation for communities without grid infrastructure. Over 300 free documents available at practicalaction.org. These are not survival blog posts. They are engineering specifications used to construct water systems in rural East Africa and off-grid solar installations in South Asia. They were written by engineers for non-engineers, and most of them are simpler to implement than anything sold in a commercial prepper supply store. Free, downloadable, immediately applicable. File 14, CDC Emergency Preparedness Publications. The Centers for Disease Control publishes detailed free PDF guides for disaster preparedness, waterborne disease prevention, emergency sanitation, and safe food handling during power outages. Specific guides exist for chemical emergencies, floods, extreme heat, and prolonged displacement. Here is the part that should make you stop for a moment. The CDC hosts all of this guidance on cdc.gov. Their primary instruction for accessing their emergency preparedness information is visit the website. During an emergency that takes the internet offline, every PDF they publish is free. Not one of them comes with an instruction to download it now, while you still can. That step was left out. Do it yourself tonight. File 15, the one I saved for last. Since 1899, a single reference guide has served as the primary clinical decision-making tool for physicians across North America. Your doctor uses it during examinations, not the simplified edition published for patients, but a full professional edition covering thousands of conditions, complete drug interaction databases, and the diagnostic trees physicians use to determine your treatment. The professional and consumer editions are not the same document. They have never been the same document. In 2014, Merck made the professional edition of the Merck Manual publicly available online. No paywall, no login, no medical credential required. The identical clinical reference your physician consults when deciding your diagnosis, free. But someone made sure you would never think to look for it. The medical information system in North America is built on asymmetry. Your physician has the full reference. You receive the consumer summary. That gap has generated billions of dollars in unnecessary consultations, redundant diagnostics, and the simple perception that clinical knowledge belongs to credentialed professionals, not to the people it concerns most. The full professional edition has been freely available at merckmanuals.com professionals since 2014. The Merck Manual application provides offline access to the complete professional database after a single download. No subscription required. You now have access to the same clinical reference your physician uses. It has always been free. Nobody told you. 15 files, everyone publicly funded, everyone available tonight, everyone produced by the same institutions that told you to visit a website in an emergency. The grid will go down somewhere in the world tonight. It will come to your region eventually. Storm, infrastructure, failure, cyber attack, or a scenario nobody predicted. When it does, the difference between having this information offline and not having it will not feel like a preparedness choice. It will feel like the only decision that mattered. Download them in order. Start with KeyWeeks and the Wikipedia archive. Everything else on this list layers on top of it. Store every file on a USB drive that lives in your emergency kit. That drive costs less than a copay. You now know what 150 years of documented public knowledge looks like when it fits in your pocket. Every like, every share puts this list in front of someone who still has time to download it tonight. That time is shorter than most people think. If this information changes the way you view your digital safety and survival, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the vital knowledge they forgot to tell you to save. Secure your future. The next archive opens soon.